Porsche is known for cars like this, and this. Both are exceptional at going very, very fast, sounding awesome and putting a massive smile on your face. But when it comes to everyday driving, you can do better. In fact, Porsche can do better. This is the Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, and I reckon there's a strong case for this being one of, if not the most versatile Porsche ever made. And this is why. The Porsche Taycan launched in 2019 as Porsche's first ever all-electric car, and it was a success, initially at least, but over the last year or so, the slower than expected uptake of electric cars has meant that the sales figures haven't looked quite as strong. There's also the idea that the Taycan has a reputation for heavy depreciation, which does vary model by model, but the upshot is that you can currently buy a sub 40,000 mile 2021 Taycan Cross Turismo for just over £40,000. Why exactly am I telling you this? Well, if you're clever, you can get your very own Porsche super electric car for the same price as a new VW ID.4. And yeah, it'll be used and it won't be the facelift model like this, but that's still an awful lot of car for the money. And while the Taycan Cross Turismo won't be as exhilarating as a 718 Spyder RS or a 911 GT3 Cup car, it's still a Porsche, so it is fast. In 4S spec, this Cross Turismo accelerates from 0 to 62 miles an hour in just 3.6 seconds, and it can do that over and over and over again. For various filming-related reasons, that's about the third time that I've activated launch control today, and every single time I've done it, on varying levels of battery, it has been neck-snappingly ballistic, honestly. You often get EVs where the launch control and the acceleration, it dies down as the battery depletes or the battery overheats, but in this, I haven't reached that point. It still feels just as fast as it did this morning. But even without using launch control, the accelerator pedal is sublime. You might think that all electric cars kind of feel the same, or the powertrains do, just with varying levels of G that pins you back in your seat, but that's not the case. This is especially relevant in the Taycan, which uses a single speed on the electric motor at the front, but a dual speed on the one at the rear. The first speed is mainly used in Sport or Sport Plus driving modes, as well as during launch controlled starts, while the second speed is the default for everyday driving and cruising. The upshot of that is you get ballistic low-speed acceleration, you get good efficiency, and also lots of high-speed torque. Now, Porsche hasn't quite managed to get rid of the jolt when it changes speeds, but you only really feel that when you're pressing on, and in that case, you don't really care so much. It's not noticeable in everyday driving because most of the time, it'll just stick in the second speed. It really helps you make super fast, super efficient progress in everyday driving. If you need to nip into a space or take a gap, the power's always there, it's always responsive, and you always get it when you need it. I'd honestly say that when it comes to making discrete, rapid progress in regular driving situations, an electric car like this is going to be your best bet. Although it would be discreet if it didn't look like a big piece of candy floss. There is that. Incidentally, this particular colour is called Provence. It's a £1,400 extra,
and it's an interesting contrast to the otherwise rugged look of the Taycan Cross Turismo.
I quite like it though, because I see it as a metaphor for the breadth of ability that you get with the Taycan Cross Turismo. It rides a little bit higher than a regular Taycan. It's got plastic black cladding around the wheel arches to make it more hard-wearing. It's also got a gravel mode, and the rear end, it's more like an estate car than a saloon. I mean, it's not as ice cool and niche as a 911 Dakar, but it still looks pretty good.
Inside, the larger hatch-style rear end means there's more headroom and boot space in the Cross Turismo than you'd get in a regular Taycan. It's the sort of thing that you won't see leading the press release, but it does make an appreciable difference to real-world use.
Although, speaking of real-world use, I do wish Porsche would do what it does in the Cayenne and actually have physical climate control dials, because in here we've got a touchscreen which isn't particularly responsive or intuitive to use, and it's covered in fingerprints. I mean, it looks like a toddler has been at it, but actually it's just me trying to not freeze. So I'm not a particularly big fan of that, but otherwise the cabin is very, very good. I like lots of things about it, not least the design, because it actually feels like it's been designed. It's way better than a Tesla Model S in that respect. The seats are comfortable, the driving position is good. I love the steering wheel, it's a proper Porsche steering wheel. And then the view out, you've got the two humps on either side of the bonnet, and it's like you're looking onto the bonnet of a 911. It feels very Porsche.
Extended Apple CarPlay functionality also means you can control some of the car's functions without exiting the CarPlay interface, which is nice, while a cooled wireless charging pad should stop your phone from getting stupidly hot in exchange for a few % of battery.
Speaking of charging and temperature, this facelifted 4S Cross Turismo with its 97 kilowatt-hour usable battery will charge at up to 320 kilowatts. And it can also do that from just 15 degrees, whereas before it was up to 35 degrees before you started to get the optimum charging speed. And that means that now you should be able to get 186 miles of range in just 10 minutes when the charger is working at its full capacity. Although I've got to say, this Ionity one at the moment isn't actually doing that. But even so, we're getting some good charge going in.
Use a domestic charger such as this Anderson A2 meanwhile, and you're looking at an 11-hour charge at 11 kilowatts to go from 0 to 100%. On the WLTP cycle, that's supposed to get you just under 360 miles of range.
As for real-world range, well, I charged this car to 100% this morning, and on the dash it said 270 miles. Yes, that's not what it claims, or actually that close to what it claims, but A, Porsche aren't the only ones to not get close to the claimed figure. That's very normal for EVs. And B, I think if you were careful, you could definitely get it a lot closer to 300, which for something this quick is pretty good.
Thing is, despite this car weighing over 2.2 tons, it would be a shame to simply drive it along like a luxury barge. Sport and Sport Plus drive modes are genuine fun, and they're helped by the optional Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus and rear axle steering fitted to this particular car.
What I really like about this car is the steering, and it's the same on all Taycans. It actually feels like Porsche steering, despite the fact that the car's electric, despite the fact that it weighs so much. It's not mad quick, straight off center, but you do get a lot of confidence and actual feel from it as well, and that's really important when you've got something that is big and that it is heavy. There's no getting away from it, but the steering just works so well.
What's more, the Taycan Cross Turismo has another trick up its sleeve. Air suspension is standard, but this car also has the £6,500 Porsche Active Ride Control fitted. What this does is add a hydraulic pumping unit to each damper on the four corners of the car. They essentially act as anti-roll bars and therefore greatly improve the independent responses of the suspension on each wheel, keeping the car super flat and composed.
As As a result, the ride quality in this car is phenomenal. It is so comfortable. It does not feel firm at all, and it's such a great thing to drive over long distances or even at low speeds in town. However, if you start to go a bit quicker around corners in the normal drive mode, things feel a bit unusual because the car is counteracting the pitch and the roll, so it's essentially leaning into corners. And while that's very, very good for making fast progress, it does feel a bit weird, and if I'm being honest, it's making me a bit car sick. So I think the best thing to do, if you're gonna drive this car quickly around corners, is to put it back into the Sport or Sport Plus mode, because that feels a lot more natural.
If I'm being picky, the brake pedal, which is lumbered with the job of energy recuperation, isn't anywhere near Porsche's best for feel or linearity. They do stop the car, and they do look great behind the £3,500 21-inch Cross Turismo design wheels, but they don't have that feedback that Porsche's done so well to achieve in, for example, the steering. Overall though, the Taycan Cross Turismo is a brilliant all-rounder. It's lovely to sit in, there's plenty of space, there's tech, performance, comfort, and fun to be had. It's proof that Porsche absolutely knows what it's doing when it comes to building luxury EVs that are worthy of the badge.
This video is going live very soon after Porsche's CEO said that the company had seen a clear drop in demand for battery electric vehicles. And the upshot of that, at least in the near future, is that the upcoming Boxster and Cayman models are no longer going to be electric only. There's also going to be a petrol option too. I mean, that is hugely significant, and I've got to say that even as a fan of loud, fast, petrol-powered Porsches, there's no question for me that this Taycan 4S Cross Turismo is the most well-rounded Porsche on sale today, petrol and electric. The only real question mark over this car is the future of it, because now that Porsche has acknowledged that there's been a drop in demand for battery electric vehicles, will they continue to produce cars that are electric only? Because if they don't, is this going to be the one and only Taycan that we'll ever see? That's a big question. Answers in the comments below, please.